Good morning to all the early risers in Iowa and to everyone in our global audience. I'm Maureen Mecozzi, Director of Communications for the World Vegetable Center. We call it WorldVeg. If you don't know about WorldVeg, let me quickly fill you in. WorldVeg is an international nonprofit institute for vegetable research and development. We aim to realize the potential of vegetables for healthier lives and more resilient livelihoods. We do this through our globally important gene bank, by breeding improved varieties, and by developing innovative production methods that help farmers increase their vegetable harvests, raise incomes in poor rural and urban households, create jobs, and provide healthier, more nutritious diets for families and communities in Asia and Africa. Today, my colleagues will introduce you to mung bean. It's what we'd like to call the billion-dollar bean. This legume has been part of the center's crop portfolio for more than 4 decades, and over time, its value and impact have greatly increased, especially in Myanmar. We have with us today Dr. Pepijn Schreinemachers, Flagship Leader for Enabling Impact, Dr. Roland Schafleitner, Flagship Leader for Vegetable Diversity and Improvement, Dr. Ramakrishnan Nair, our Regional Director for South and Central Asia and a legume breeder, and Dr. Win, Research Officer from the Food Legumes Section, Department of Agricultural Research, Myanmar. The chat box is open, so please send us your questions. So Ram, tell us, what's mung bean and why is it so important?
Mung bean is also known as green gram, and it's an important food legume crop grown as part of the cereal farming system. Particularly in Asia. The crop is expanding in other parts of the world. For example, in Africa, in East and West Africa, the crop is expanding. And currently the global area is around 7 million hectares. And mung bean, there are several different products of which mung bean can be consumed. So, mung bean can be consumed as whole grains, or you can split the grains and you call it as dal. Then in Southeast Asia, the mung bean is consumed mainly as sprouts. Then there are other products like vermicelli, then there are noodles, and then you have a health drink made from the seed coat of mung bean. And for those with a sweet tooth, there are desserts made, cakes and sweets are made from mung bean.
Great, thanks very much for that information. Pepijn, maybe you can enlighten us. Why are we calling mung bean the billion-dollar bean?
Thanks for that question, Maureen. Hello, everyone. And why we call it the billion-dollar bean? We do that working on mung bean since the 1970s and has been working very closely with the national programs in Asia, especially Pakistan and India, and Myanmar, Philippines, Thailand. And we have introduced many varieties over this period. We recently did a study to look at the varieties we introduced into Myanmar, and there we focused on 4 varieties that have been introduced between 2000 and 2008. And we look at the adoption rates of those varieties and the economic impact that those generated. We found that those varieties that were introduced are adopted by 77% of the mung bean farmers in Myanmar. Now, in Myanmar, that's not a normal mung bean country. Myanmar is the second largest, or actually together with India, are the largest producers of mung bean globally. So the acreage is very important for Myanmar. So 77% of the area is planted to WorldVeg mung bean varieties. And when we calculated the economic impact of those 4 varieties, we found that $1.4 billion of economic gains were generated between a period between the 1980s when we started to work with Myanmar and 2016, it's the last year when we did the study. Now, those varieties are still being used in Myanmar, and we expect by the next 10 years until 2030, the economic gains will have increased even to $3.7 billion. So that's why we call it the billion-dollar bean. Thanks, Maureen.
That's great. And now, are you anticipating that it will be grown on even more acreage going forward?
Yes, mungbean is expanding, not in every country. We find in some countries it became uneconomical because the costs are relatively high of growing mungbean. The yields also of mungbean is relatively low, at an average about 720 kilograms per hectare. However, in other countries, you find a rapid expansion of mungbean. For example, in Central Asia and East Africa, we find farmers increasingly growing the crop. So we find a kind of a shift in the global production of mungbean, but on total, the demand is strongly increasing.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe Roland, or excuse me, Ram, could you address some of the agronomic characteristics of mungbean, and why do they make it such a valuable crop?
Well, the most important agronomic attribute of mungbean is its ability to fit into cropping systems, particularly the cereal farming system, both in Asia and Africa. And it has been very well, because of its short duration. When we say short duration, it's about 60 days. And there are now varieties developed which can mature in 55 days. So that short duration makes it an ideal crop to fit into cereal farming systems, and it has been well demonstrated in Asia, and now it is being taken up in Africa. And the other attributes are, it does need less inputs, and so it is very easy to grow, and also, it's a drought-hardy crop and also tolerant to heat, and so it is a crop very important for in a country like Myanmar, where it is grown as an export crop. So I think that is why, and the importance of having good management practices has been well demonstrated by the mungbean growers in Myanmar, and because of its export value.
Okay, and also a good crop as climates are changing with its heat tolerance and drought tolerance.
Yes, certainly, yes.
Okay. Marmar, maybe you could talk a little bit about the situation in Myanmar and what kind of benefits farmers realize when they grow mungbean.
Yes, thank you. In Myanmar, mungbean is one of the important crops in our family system. In our DAR, in Myanmar, we have a lot of process in Myanmar. According to the market and according to the consumption pattern, our department mostly emphasize on the seed mandate crop, including mungbean. Among the crop, mungbean is the potential crop because, like say the Dr. Roland and Dr. Pepijn, and also short duration crop is very competitive to our cropping system. In Myanmar, there are two production zones in the rainy season in the central Myanmar, the mainly Mecozzi region. In this area, our mungbean is short duration crop, very competitive with indoor crop and soil crop. And then after the post-rainy season crop, after the rice harvest condition, cereal-based or rice-based mungbean is very profitable. And also in Myanmar, we have Myanmar consumption is very low compared with India. And we are selling to the other country. The main import country, India. According to the other parts, mungbean is we have market potential compared with the blackland. Blackland is mostly emphasized on the India. Mungbean is we have the many potential, market potential. For example, like China, India, and also now EU market is very interesting to the Myanmar mungbean. That's why in Myanmar, our government and also our private sector NGO mostly emphasize on the mungbean value chain. Collaboration with the farmer. That's why and also we are evaluating the mungbean value chain to export to the EU market with the good quality, good export quality. Our research department is supported to the farmer and also collaboration with the wild vegetable center, Dr. Roland. And also we are producing the new variety for the market and farmer.
Oh, that sounds very exciting, and a lot of opportunities for export as well. So Pepijn, moving across international borders, what about the benefits of breeding, international breeding programs for countries outside Myanmar?
Yeah, well, we did the impact study only for Myanmar so far, but there's evidence also for other countries that breeding mungbean gives quite substantial returns on investment into breeding programs, which shows that varieties are a key constraint. And many of the national programs are relatively weak, you have to understand, because mungbean is not a major crop in most of those countries. So they often have like 1 or 2 mungbean breeders. Often these breeders also work on other legumes at the same time. Mm-hmm. So the contribution of an international center like World Vegetable Center can be quite substantial. I have one slide to show about the like adoption of our World Veg varieties in some of the other countries. I hope that you can see that here.
Yes.
So it shows, for example, these are the main mungbean producing countries that we have been studying. And what it shows here is that improved variety adoption globally is about 64% of the mungbean area planted to improved varieties. And if you look at world vegetable varieties, 32%. So that's 1/3 of the global mungbean area that we analyzed here is planted to varieties that came from World Vegetable Center. So that shows that international mungbean breeding makes quite some impact, at least here, in terms of the number of farmers and the area that is planted to those varieties. The last column on the right shows you the number of farmers estimated that are benefiting from this, and that's from those World Veg varieties, and that's 1.6, 1.7 million farmers are using those varieties. Just to give you some idea of the global impact of this breeding program.
Yeah, so it's had such a huge economic impact in Myanmar, and how would you say that came about?
Yeah, I guess that Myanmar can also help to answer that question. For me, it's a very close collaboration and I think sharing of this material. And of course, in Myanmar, it filled a particular gap. Like initially in Myanmar, the mungbean area was not very large. I have the data not right in front of me, but it expanded enormously over the last 20 years, the mungbean area. Mm-hmm. And there was a great need for varieties that had resistance against the mungbean yellow mosaic disease, which is the main constraint to mungbean production in South Asia, including Myanmar. And having those varieties that had that resistance and they're introduced into Myanmar really filled an important need and important gap here in terms of the improved varieties. So I think that's for me that's one of the main explanations. Mama, maybe you can explain a little bit, add there a bit from a Myanmar perspective. It would be interesting to hear that. So the question, Mama, is that what explains the success of those varieties in Myanmar?
Yes, Pepijn. And also, mungbean mostly grown in the central drying zone. Now, according to the market potential, now mungbean is mungbean sowing area expand to the pre-monsoon season, February, March, April. In that season, maybe the yellow mosaic disease very serious. And also our DAR, our research center, and also evaluate release yellow mosaic resistant variety. One variety is from the World Vegetable Center, and another variety is our national breeding program. Our breeding program line from the World Vegetable Center. Now we release 2 resistant varieties. That's why an adoption of this variety is very high. And also mungbean sowing area is there, and this year-long sowing of the mungbean in Myanmar, especially in the rainy season, no problem in the yellow mosaic disease resistant. And also pre-monsoon season and late rainy season, yellow mosaic disease is very serious. And also our research released 2 resistant variety. That's why, and also the mungbean sowing area and also yield will be increased.
Great, thank you. So Ram, you're a legume breeder. Can you tell us a little bit about the nutritional benefits of mungbean and the kinds of things you're looking for when you're breeding?
Yes, the main characteristics of the mungbean's nutritional properties are its, the protein, easily digestible. It's about 24%, and also the the mung bean as a source of minerals like iron and zinc. And it is important to note that compared to other legumes, the phytic acid content in mung beans is very low. So that makes it makes the minerals, iron, zinc, and all more bioavailable when you consume mung beans.
Great.
And in addition to that, I would like to share information on the importance of mung bean sprouts compared to grains, because usually we talk about mung bean grains, but when you talk about sprouts, they are more nutritious because there is the vitamin C content is higher in sprouts. And also in addition to that, when you do sprouting, there is further reduction in phytic acid content. So consumption of sprouts is better than consuming grains because you have lower phytic acid, and also the vitamin C content is more in sprouts, which will make the mineral more bioavailable during consumption. And that's very important from a nutritional point.
Yeah, and plus they're nice and crunchy and taste good. So Roland, we'd like to bring you in here. Looking at mung bean from the molecular level, you've been working with the genetics and breeding. Could you explain to us what a minicore collection is and how it benefits our mung bean research?
Thank you, with great pleasure. Mung bean breeders, or breeders in general, need continuous access to biodiversity, to find new traits for breeding, to bring new genes in their breeding populations. And access to biodiversity can be complicated. Biodiversity is conserved generally in gene bank collections, and these gene bank collections can be pretty large. And it is very difficult for the breeders to find the diversity they need. In order to explain the minicore collection a little bit better, I have prepared a few slides that I would like to share with you. As I said, gene bank collections can be pretty large. For example, the mung bean gene bank collection contains more than 10,000 accessions. Looking for a certain trait in a collection that is as large as this one is like looking for the needle in the haystack. In order to make this search more effective, it would be good to have a smaller collection for screening. But if the collection is smaller, we also lose a little bit of diversity. So what can we do? What we did is we looked at all data that were available for this germplasm, and we used this data in order to do some kind of a statistical analysis to determine the similarity between the different accessions. Then we grouped these accessions, and from each group, which represents those accessions that are the most similar ones, we were drawing one or a few to represent the whole group. We came to a core collection of around 1,400 accessions. But still, 1,400 accessions for a program like mung bean is a large number. If it would be a wheat program, a rice program, no problem to screen 1,400 accessions. But for mung bean program, this is a little bit too much. So we were using molecular markers to further narrow down this set to draw 300 accessions that are probably the best set to represent the diversity that is available in all the 10,000 germplasm accessions. Core collection means to make a large collection smaller, but without losing most of the diversity that is included in the collection. On this slide, which is from Myanmar, you can see the plots of 300 different minicore accessions filmed with a drone. And you can immediately see how these different minicore collections behave here under virus stress. Some are yellow, some are green. So very easy to evaluate these 300 accessions. Imagine you would have 10,000. It would be very difficult, very costly to do that. And when you look at the map on the top right of the slide, you see the minicore collection was distributed into many regions. And this is the advantage. If I have a small minicore collection that consists only of 300 accessions, it's relatively easy for us to share this collection with breeders and with scientists all over the world. If this collection would comprise 10,000 accessions, it would be very laborious, very difficult to share and to screen. These small collections make screening just much easier. And as they make screening much easier, this is what we got. We got a lot of traits that are now available for breeding. Here I list just a few of them. Virus resistance, bacteria resistance, salt tolerance, accessions with extra long pods with high yield potential, powdery mildew resistance, anthracnose resistance, dry root rot resistance. All these resistances were not available before, and it was very difficult to get them. Well, it would have been impossible to get them from the large collection. So this is what I wanted to share with you. I hope I could explain how a minicore collection is made and what are the benefits of this minicore collection.
Great, thank you so much. So Ram, as a breeder, we've got all these traits that are available, and how are you distributing those traits? How are you networking with different breeders in different countries?
Well, we have the International Mungbean Improvement Network, funded by the Australian Centre for International Agricultural Research, which we have partners from India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Indonesia, Kenya, and Australia. And we have the larger network in which we have other partners from other countries. And as part of the network, we share the germplasm, the accessions, the minicore, which Roland pointed out, and also the improved lines developed by WorldVeg. And as part of the network, we share both phenotypic as well as genotypic data. And in that way, we know what are the problems in different countries, and we address them through improved varieties.
Are there particular traits that are especially of interest in each plant?
Yes, I can share you as part of the International Mungbean Improvement Network. We have developed product profiles for each country. For example, in Myanmar, here we have must-have traits and good-to-have traits. For a breeder, the wish list is a very big list, but to make it efficient, we have to focus on the must-haves. So high yield is there, then we have tall, erect plant habit, early maturity, shiny green seed, synchronous maturity, sprouting ability, mungbean yellow mosaic disease resistance, powdery mildew resistance, and bruchid resistance. So these are the must-have. In terms of mungbean yellow mosaic disease, even though earlier Pepijn and Myanmar said about already the resistance varieties are available, we have in India a new strain of species of the virus which could make the currently available varieties in Myanmar susceptible. So as part of the International Mungbean Improvement Network, we have developed new lines which incorporates the alternate source of resistance to the new strain or species which have been identified. And when we have good to have traits, we spoke about the nutritional value of the crop. So improving iron content is important. Then we have resistance to Cercospora leaf spot, dry root rot, pod borer, as well as thrips. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is a question I think I'd like to ask everyone. We all know that mungbean is well known throughout Asia, but what about other countries? What about other continents? Africa, for instance, what are the opportunities there for this very special legume? Maybe Pepijn, could you begin?
Yeah, that's a good question. Actually, in the slide that I showed earlier, I showed adoption rates. I should have mentioned that we find the adoption rate of WorldVeg mung bean varieties in Africa only 2%. So that's not a great success there. So we have a long way to go, I think, with introducing and promoting good varieties in Africa and making sure that the varieties that we have are suitable also for African conditions. Yields in Africa are particularly low, but also in India they're very low. So there's a lot of potential, I think, to increase yields. The interesting thing at the moment is that mung bean is gaining a lot of attention and getting in the spotlight because currently the trend for less meat consumption and more plant-based foods really fits well to mung bean because the quality protein contained in mung bean is found to be a very good source of protein. So you have some companies like Just Egg, for example, in the US, using mung bean as the key ingredient for egg replacements, plant-based egg replacer. But also you have the company Beyond Meat, for example, selling a lot of the plant-based products, meat replacements, and also they found mung bean to be an ideal source for making those products. So we find a lot of interest, I think, in there, and also the consumers are realizing the health benefits of mung bean products as well as mung bean sprouts. So I think there's a lot of potential that we could promote it also a lot more. Still, sprout consumption is limited to a few countries, and I think many other countries could find that a very attractive option to improve nutrition.
Great. Roland, Ram, Marmar, any comments before we wrap it up?
Now, in Myanmar, mung bean market opportunity is explore, and also we had the opportunity for the international market. That's why, and also our government and also we emphasize on the co-agriculture practices with the mung bean. Mostly we are indebted to the EU market. EU market is very high. Also, we are training to the farmer and also the collaboration with the some NGOs, some farmer group, and also emphasize on the co-agriculture practices for the mung or the export markets.
So EU market, a big possibility there for Myanmar. That's great.
Maureen,
in Africa. Oh, sorry, Ram.
No, you can go ahead, Roland. I can talk about Africa. I was planning to talk about Africa. Yes.
Yes, mung bean in Africa. Mung bean has something that only a few legumes have. Short crop duration and being really resilient and rustic. Cowpea, for example, which is very popular in Africa, has crop duration of 90 to 125 days. Mung bean from, as Ram said, 55 to perhaps 60, 70 days. So this is an asset mung bean has, and that's why I am very much convinced that the success story of mung bean in Asia will be repeated in Africa.
Wonderful. Ram.
Well, to add to that, I think there is already mung bean has been growing, rapidly in East Africa, particularly in Kenya and Tanzania, and as part of the International Mung Bean Improvement Network, as well as funding from the UK government, we have introduced the mung bean minicore collection to both East and West Africa. And also we introduced some improved lines. The response from the great work done by our collaborators in these countries, for example, in Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, then we have collaborators in Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, and Mali, has been tremendous. And they have done, farmer participatory evaluation of these improved lines. And also in West Africa, it's a new crop. So they have done, cooking also, and with new recipes or borrowed recipes from East Africa and as well as in Asia. And the response has been very encouraging. And so I think, as Roland said, I think there is, huge potential for the expansion of mung bean in Africa.
Great. Well, thanks everyone. I think we shared some good information today about mung bean. I hope that our listeners got some good ideas about what you can do with this bean and the big impact that it can have in so many places in Asia and Africa. I hope you found the session informative. And if you would like more information, you can always visit our website, worldveg.org. And I thank you all for your attention. I hope you enjoy your week at the World Food Prize. Thanks, guys. See you again.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.